Ah, another year, another year. Ah well, let's see if we can end this one on a high note. What's in the trending news right now? You have got to be Hi everyone, welcome to the Broken Meeple Top 10 of 2017. Yes, I hope you all had a good Christmas, guys. My last review, I think, was Alien Artifacts. And then, obviously, I needed a break. I went back to Somerset to spend some time with the folks, have the giant feast to feed the 5,000, play a few games, albeit some more simple titles. You know, my parents are not the quickest at picking up the whole modern game thing, but slowly but surely I was able to work in a few classics, including actually Dream Home, which worked quite well with them actually, so yes, result. But yeah, that's it for now for Christmas. It's time to get on with the end of 2017. New Year's Day is just around the corner. I've already got plans for that, you know, a big house party with some gaming friends. But basically, obviously, I need to get on with the top 10 of 2017 because most other people already have done theirs. I wanted to wait until the last possible second before I could do my list. I wanted to get as many games as I could play from 2017, give them the beans, and so have a decent, fair way of doing my top 10. Now, there's going to be two lists for this. There's going to be a top 10 of 2017, which is the official 2017 list, and there's going to be a top 10 expansions of 2017, because I felt overall I wasn't that overwhelmed by this year. I don't know whether it's just because I've been doing games for a while and it's slowly dying down with innovation, but I thought this year was okay. There's some good titles, and granted, I mean, I came up with a decent shortlist and it was quite hard to rank them in order from 1 to 10. But yeah, loads of people have been saying that this is like a massive year, this is amazing, yeah. I just wasn't getting that. There's a lot of games I've played this year which have been okay, decent, but they've not wowed me. They've not justified the, you are, you know, a contender for a top 10 list, or even like, you know, well, yeah, you're cool, but, you know, this game has already done it better, therefore why do I need this one? I don't succumb to the cult of the new like a lot of people do. But, like I say, that's all subjective opinion at the end of the day. So there will be a top 10 of 2017, top 10 expansions, and that will wrap up the year. When I get the expansions one out, I'll try and do it, you know, straight after this one. But of course, that depends on time. For now, I'm going to concentrate on getting this list done. So, got my little black book, spent some time to, you know, over the last couple of days trying to collate all my thoughts and put them in an order from 1 to 10. And I've got quite a few honourable mentions and a few little bits and bobs to mention first, though. Firstly, of course, I have not played every single game from 2017, but then again, neither have you. So, you know, don't come at me with that. Secondly, there are a couple of games which I would like to get played. I just haven't had the chance to this year, whether because they're hard to get hold of, or I just never got a review copy, etc. And there's one or two games where even if I like them, I don't think I can include them on the list. So I just want to quickly run over those now. Firstly, Sagrada. I would like to get Sagrada played. Unfortunately, every time it comes out for release, it kind of goes off sale like really quickly. It's very popular. And nobody I know owns the game, so I haven't had a chance to really play that one yet. It looks like it would be something I would enjoy, but hard to tell. I mean, it's a simple dice game. Will I like it, will I not? I do want to get it played though, and, you know, at some point in the future I'll be able to reflect on that. Secondly, I also wanted to mention Gaia Project. Now, this one I am going to review, and I'm already halfway through playtesting at the moment. I've tried it solo, worked pretty well. I've tried it with players, again, works pretty well. There is one thing I have about this, though, about including it on any list. Gaia Project, the abridged version, is basically Terra Mystica 1.5. It is so similar to Terra Mystica, it's unreal. Literally, they've added one land type, the Gaia planets and such what, and jigged up the cult track, so now it's now the research track, where you get a few bonuses as you go up. Other than that though, it is so similar, so identical to Terra Mystica, that it's unreal. That how can I say it's a top 10 game of 2017 when it's basically just a reprint? It is literally, they have literally taken Terra Mystica, added one or two tweaks, scraped off the fantasy thing with a kitchen knife, and then slapped the space theme on it. It's a cool game so far, I'm enjoying it. But how can you say it's a top 10 game of 2017? Because you're basically just saying Terra Mystica is a top 10 game of 2017. It's an odd one. I'll get into more detail when I do the actual review, but yeah, even I haven't given it enough beans to give it a review, so it wouldn't have made this list anyway. But even then, I'm a little bit, it's a little bit too eerily similar to Terra Mystica. Was there any others to mention? I don't believe so. No, I think that's all the ones that oh yeah, Fallout. Yes, I have not played Fallout, but I'm not seeing myself going mad for that. I've not played the PC games more than, say, like 2 hours of game time. I don't have the time to play these really long RPGs, and it sounds like it'll be alright, but what I'm hearing about it is giving me slight trepidation about it. I hear it's quite long, I hear it's very luck-driven at times, so I'd like to try it. But I don't know if I'm going to see myself loving it. But of course, I have not played that one before trying out this list. Other than that though, pretty much fair game. So, no, you know what? I want to keep things interesting. I'm going to leave my honourable mentions until the end of this list. Because I've rabbled on enough. You want to see a top 10. So, here we go. Let's get started. A lot of friends that I've got at the moment are coming down with various colds and sicknesses and chest infections and what have not, so it's kind of fitting that this one makes my number 10. This one is a new entry in the Dice Tower Essentials line, and it is Viral. Viral is a super streamlined game about you controlling viruses within this human body, and you're infecting all the various organs in a sort of area control game. You will draft these, you'll collect cards that give you special abilities or, influence how you can move and attack other viruses. But essentially, it's very streamlined. You play the cards in order to place viruses down, move them across from organ to organ, and it all makes sense from a biology perspective. Like, you go from brain to heart. Heart can go all the way to all the other, bodily functions. You can only get to the lungs from the heart and back. It's some good amount of thought has been put into how the body is laid out. At the end of each round, there's an event that goes off. You'll score points for area control. But if you get too good, the body fights back, and so do the doctors outside. I always joke that it's basically House MD and his team, if you ever watched that series. Classic. But I joke that basically they're the ones realising, oh yeah, we gotta get you, it's lupus. And they stop you. Your viruses get wiped off the board and you've got to start from scratch. So you've got to be careful about when, because it's inevitable you're going to happen. I mean, occasionally you can stop yourself from going off the charts, but it's rare. Most of the time you will go off the charts and you need to be prepared to build up again from scratch. But it's just such a super streamlined game. So easy to learn. The artwork in this is beautiful. It is gorgeously colourful. And it's just so simple to get to the table. But it's very enjoyable. The artwork is, really cool. It's cutesy-ish. But it suits the theme of the game. It's light-hearted. You're not really like tearing this guy inside and out from, the bodily organs. You are basically just, setting up home. You're setting up home, the guy survives at the end, and it's all just about getting victory points at the end of the day. But the variety in the cards, the area control aspect, there's a good amount of take that without feeling too punishing. It's just a really cool and interesting fun game. Definitely one that's suitable for the Dice Tower Essentials line, and just peaks at number 10 on the top 10 of this year. My number 9 is actually one that I just got in the post today. Hang on a minute, how can you have it on your top 10 list if you only just got it? Well, I have been playing it this year. I've just been playing other people's copies. That's why I haven't done a review of this one. But now I have my very own brand new copy. It's still in shrink wrap, actually. I haven't even unwrapped it yet. Photosynthesis. This is such a weird one because it's an abstract game, but it's a thematic abstract game. It's really odd. The theme of this, growing trees and perpetuating a forest, has not been done before. This is a really unique and innovative theme. But it is an abstract game, so it's really hard to say what it is. A thematic abstract, does that even make sense? But in this one, you're growing trees, little trees, big trees, and the idea is that this board, the sun rotates around it and shines light onto it. And each tree, as it sucks in light, gives you these light points, as they're called, which allow you to do things like plant other seeds, grow trees bigger, do stuff like that. And essentially you're trying to claim these point tiles, by having these humongous trees on the board and then sort of harvesting them. And depending on how close they are to the center, they're worth more points. But it's really cool that the light reflects around the board and each big tree overshadows smaller trees in its line. So you can block other players, your trees might get blocked by your own trees if you're not careful. And you'll have turns where, yes, the sun's coming from the southwest now, I've got loads of light, this is brilliant. But then you also get to the north side and you realise that all your trees are in the shadow and suddenly you're low on light points and you've got to make up for that. Or you can try and balance it out. It's a really cool abstract and oh my god, it looks sublime. Some of the best Instagram photos I've done this year or seen on other people's Instagrams has been of this game. Get a fully fledged forest, get your photo camera up nice and close and take a picture, do what you want on Instagram or photo filters and it looks gorgeous. All the different trees of like autumn, winter, summer, spring style trees and different sizes on the board with the sunlight board that you revolve around it. It's just so beautiful. Granted, the box could be a little better because you pretty much just dump the trees in the various corners and I'm not looking forward to punching this out. I'm really not because there's a lot of cardboard. But Blue Orange is not a publisher I've been following a lot lately, I'll admit. I wasn't blown away by New York 1901 and some of the other titles. But they're very good at doing, these family-friendly style games, and this one fits that bill. It's a family-friendly abstract, works well with 2, 3 or 4 players. Granted, I prefer it with 2 or 3. 4 can just maybe go a little bit long, depends on the people. But play it with the advanced rules, and it just sings. One of my, is it my favourite abstract this year? I believe, yes it is, my favourite abstract of the year. So, credit to Blue Orange Games. This is a beautiful thematic abstract. It's weird to what to call it, but this theme has not been done before. I think it should be done more. It's, I feel that this one has gone that way to innovation with regards to its theme. It works with it. It's not like it's, it doesn't make sense why the trees would do this or anything. No, it makes sense. And we've not seen this kind of thing before. So, credit to Blue Orange Games. Solid abstract. Photosynthesis at number 9. My number 8 is a big contrast to the 2 that I've just been mentioning. I've talked about super streamlined abstracts and area control games. This one is a bonkers big Euro, 3 hours plus, huge, giant novels for player aids, massive historical theme, huge box, components, the lot. This is a monster compared to the 2 I've just mentioned. It's not my favourite Vital Lacerda game ever though, but it's certainly still a decent game, and that is this huge thing right behind my head here. I know most of you will probably put it higher on your list, but, let me explain. Lisboa. Now, I do prefer his other games, alright? Vinhos, Kanban, and Gallerist. I prefer all 3 of those to this one. But this is still a solid game. The mechanics in it, once you actually get them in your head, work nicely. There's a lot of interesting decisions. There's a lot of strategies you can go for. And it does look nice on the table. Granted, I do think the whole blue and white tile thing is a little irritating because I'm trying to deduce what's what on the board. And, if you've got bad eyesight, things are just going to blend in so much. And it kind of makes it look a bit messy. But the game itself works great from a mechanical perspective. And once you get past that first hurdle of learning the game, not that the rulebooks are bad, they're actually pretty good, especially those player aids, they're very good. But when you give this to new players, it's like, what am I supposed to do? It's a huge novel of a player aid with the rules, and you need to give them a history lesson just to get them to understand why these three guys are here. Why are we building this in a grid? What are these cubes? You know, what's the point of all this shipping stuff? You know, there's a lot of extra effort you have to go into to teach this game. But once you do, it's solid. I've enjoyed it I've enjoyed it solo, but I've especially enjoyed it with 2 players. A great 2-player game, back and forth, back and forth. 3 players, pretty solid. Not one I want to play with 4 players again though. It just goes too long, too much to think about, too much downtime. But as a solo 2 or 3 player game, it's been really solid. And if it was a little bit more streamlined, if it wasn't quite as hard to teach, if I was more into the theme, because, you know, the historical theme doesn't really grab me, it's more the mechanics of this game that keep it high on my list, it would be higher. It would be higher than 8. But I think it's done pretty well to reach number 8. I do prefer his other games, but this is a good solid one, and it's still in my collection, so that's a big deal. Okay, so Lisboa, number 8. Bruno Cathala and Days of Wonder. A combination made in heaven. That when those two get together to make games, you get some belters. And last time, I think 2 years ago, we had 5 Tribes, which was an excellent game. Still on my shelf, in fact, yep, right down there. 5 Tribes, still solid with the expansions. This year, we've got another kind of, almost like a 5 Tribes clone-ish in a way, but it's different enough. But it's still incredibly solid and incredibly beautiful. This is probably the best looking game of this year. Yamatai. Yamatai is a straight up Euro where you're sailing these ships around all these little islands, and when you encircle the islands, depending on the colours of the ships, you're allowed to place buildings, you're allowed to place temples, you can hire specialists to your cause that, you know, give you certain other strategies to aim for. But the crux of it are these 10 action tiles, and you have 5 to select from in a turn, and 5 will come out that are hidden, so you always chop and change each round. And the idea is that each tile will give you a certain combination of ships and a special ability for the round. It also dictates turn order though. So as well as picking an action and the ships, you need to think about what turn your order is, because it may not be good enough for you to get the ships if it means that you're going to go last, because then somebody has already messed up your game plan by the time it gets round to you. There's a good amount to think about in this. It's fairly thinky, but it's not heavy. It doesn't feel overwhelming. This is a good sort of mid-weight Euro, but with such a streamlined way of teaching it. It's such an easy one to teach. The ship mechanics are easy. The tiles themselves, you just explain them as they come out. So you've only got to explain 5 to begin the game with, and then the next 5 as they come out. Specialists, just explain each one as they come out. So as long as people understand the turn sequence and how the ships work, you're pretty much ready to start the game. The player aid is, is brilliant at just emphasizing the turn sequence, which again is very simple, but it tests your brain really well for what is a small investment in learning and teaching. And those sort of games I respect. Days of Wonder are great at doing this. They don't normally do thinky games, but when they do, they've been pretty solid at it. And Bruno Cathala, well, what can I say? He's one of my favourite designers, so there's no surprise that his game would make this list this year. So, Yamatai, one of the most beautiful looking games ever. Honestly, this artwork is just sublime. When it's on the table, oh, it's so beautiful, so gorgeously colourful. Now, granted, yeah, this has had a fair bit of shtick for the fact that if you are colourblind, you are basically screwed when playing this game. But then, unfortunately, I can't really do much about that, and I'm not colourblind myself. It's a shame that they overlooked that aspect, but then I can think of quite a few games this year that also made no effort to make life, decent for colourblind people. Century Spice Road. So, yeah, Yamatai, solid, love it. Number 7, still in my collection. Number 6 is a game that I just didn't expect to like. I looked at this game and thought, why is everyone banging on about this? It's horrible looking, it's drab, it looks bland, it looks so simplistic that it's not going to be entertaining, yet it wowed me. This one shocked me as to how much I enjoyed this game. Yes, granted, I wish they slabbed a decent amount of paint over it to make it look good, but in terms of how quick the turns are, how streamlined it is, how it teaches area control at its most basic fundamental level and still remains entertaining with good replay value. Well, that's a pretty big achievement. And of course, Most of you will know it. Let's see if I can get it off. There we go. Haha. Ethnos. I really didn't expect to like this. This was probably my biggest surprise of the year. Just to find this game that looked horrible, because look, I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but come on. The cover is not that interesting, and when you look at the board components, it's just like, bleh. But, vomit inducing. But it works. All those different races with the cards that you play in order to put your markers on the board into the territories. There's a great amount of tactics into how you use them, because what you don't play, you've got to get rid of. You've got to use all the different race abilities to your best way, and they chop and change every game. You take, I think, 6 or 7 of them, and there's like 12 or 13 of them available now with promo included. So you've got lots of variety. The way that each game plays will differ depending on those races. Other than that, turn sequences are so easy and lightning quick. Draw a card, draw a card, draw a card, play, draw a card, play. It's so fast. Even with 6 players. I've enjoyed this with 6, and it doesn't outstay its welcome. I mean, if this took any longer than, say, 90 minutes, I'd be like, come on, can we kind of hurry this up a bit? But even a 6-player game of this can wrap up in an hour. Probably about 75 minutes to be more exact, especially if you're teaching it. But if people don't have analysis paralysis, 6 players with this can wrap up quick. But it works well at 5, 4, 3, and even 2. Even 2-player of this is great. So, granted, I can think of area control games that I find more entertaining from a thematic perspective, but if you just want a straight-up mechanical area control game that has good variety and is super streamlined, look no further than Ethnos. Great hidden gem of 2017. Number 5 is probably going to get me some stick, particularly from the heavy Euro lovers, because they're going to be like, how could you put this higher than my beloved Lisboa and all these other ones? Well, game doesn't have to be heavy and take 3 hours for me to like the game. If anything, it shouldn't do that anyway. But I like simple, streamlined, lightweight games. Ones that I can get to the table quick. Ones that I can teach easily to new players. And ones that still give me a decent amount of interaction, or, well, not necessarily interaction, but a decent amount of engagement for what is offered on the table. Now, polyomino games are all the rage, it seems, these days. I mean, Patchwork, great 2-player game, took off like crazy. Cottage Garden, okay, I don't mind it, but, still decent enough. And there's all sorts of these different Tetris-y style games. I mean, even Feast of Odin in the on my shelf over there was basically, let's make this giant Euro, but put a bit of Tetris with it. Seems to be the thing these days. This is my go-to pick, though, for Tetris games, right behind my head. Get out of the way, cockroach poker. Oop, there we go. Baron Park. Yeah, super simple, streamlined, polyomino Tetris game as my number 5 of the year. I get a kick out of playing this. Granted, I love bears. Bears are my favourite animal. And, but that's got nothing to do with this. Just you're making a bear park. So the cutesy theme kind of works for me. But, it could be any theme. You're basically just laying these pieces on the board, Tetris style, in order to fill up your grids. But turns are so simple, it's very tactical. There's an element of, I've got to get that tile first before my opponents nick it. You can build your park however you like, so it's not just simply, here's my 2x2 grid. You can make a huge straight line. You could do it like an L-shaped Tetris lineup. You can basically put the extra grids on however you see fit, subject to slight limitations. Ignore the rubbish in the rulebook about, you must not play the advanced rules. Play the basic game first. No, play the advanced rules. All it is some objective tiles, but they give you ways to get points, and they chop and change how the game might play out. There's a lot of ways to gain points, the bear tiles, the special, weird shaped ones, the tokens that you get for completing a grid first, the objectives. There's a lot of ways to get points, and I find that scoring is very tight in this game. 2, 3, or 4 player, love it. It's just a solid, simple, polyomino Tetris style game. And yeah, it's outbeat some of the heavier titles this year because I've played it a lot this year. I've been able to teach it easily. I can literally go to people and say, hey, you've never played games before? Try this one. I've taught it to them in 5 minutes or less. We've already got going. Within the hour, I've taught it, we've played it, we've packed it away, and they want to play it again. Solid title. What more can I say? Baron Park. Okay, top 4, we're getting into some big heavy hitters this year. This one I have played through as a solid campaign all the way through, and I've still got more content to do in this. You know, there's so many different ways that you can play this game. You can play it in arcade mode, you can play it as a massively long campaign, you can play these little mini character campaigns. And its predecessor I wasn't a big fan of, actually. I thought it was okay, but I just thought, yeah, the Euro aspect's a bit boring and the adventures were kind of very random in how they worked. This one, though, has kicked that one right out of the business and given me something that I really wanted. If I can get it out. Oh, blimey, it's rather stuck. Here we go. There you go, careful. Oh, there's a lot in here, it's quite heavy. Near and Far. This is what I wanted Above and Below to be in the first place. You know, a good mix of a fun, light Euro game. Well, I say light, maybe midway, I don't know. Some people get thrown off by it. And a cool, almost like choose your adventure style campaign system. You know, but this one, the quests seem like they mean something. They follow a narrative as you go through the campaign, particularly if you do the character-driven ones, because then your quests are tied to your specific character, and it tells a really good story. But even the Euro game that's merged with this is good fun as well, because you've got to hire adventurers, you know, prep yourself, get the equipment to go out and, you know, check out what's there, and then you get to the quests and you might have to deal with combat threats, you might have to use your skills to negotiate your way past something or sneak past something else. And as you collect your wares from going out adventuring, like the money and the gems and the various faction tokens, you come back to the village and then work on prepping yourself again before you shoot off. There's many ways to get points. The drafting of the artifacts you do at the start of a game can change your strategy and how you're going to play. You know, am I going to go full combat and take out every threat on the map? Or am I going to go full on skill set and get all those quests before everyone else does? Shall I go do trade routes? Shall I try and win favour with a particular faction? Shall I get all the magic items, you know, and all the weird emu bird things that allow you to travel faster? There's a lot of ways to play this. With the group I was playing the whole campaign with, the 12 map version, enjoyed every game. Granted, I also won every game. I kind of demolished them at this game, but that's not to say I'm amazing at it. You know, they're newish to games and they struggle to quite grasp, you know, some of the concepts of how the best way to get victory points. But there were a couple of close finishes, so, you know, it wasn't entirely that. But even if I'd lost every single game, I'd have been happy because it just gave me a cool adventure style Euro and it merged everything perfectly. I've already kickstarted the expansion to this, Amber Mines, which is going to improve it further because even though I love it, I still have one or two criticisms. Hopefully the expansion will fix one or two of those and then we can go through the campaign again or do some of the character driven ones. But if people just want to test it out, I can literally go, fine, we'll play it arcade mode and we'll just use the cards instead of the quest book. They still work just fine. They give you a little bit of narrative. You know, if you're into thematic adventure style games where you can role play things and, you know, do that whole, ooh, what would I do in this situation type mentality, then look no further. Near and Far. Sorry, Above and Below, you just didn't quite cut it for me. This, however, does. Definitely my favourite from Ryan Lockett, although, well, we'll see when he reprints Empires of the Void 2. That's what I'm definitely looking forward to. Can it give me as much enjoyment as the first one? We'll see. But for now, Near and Far is my favourite from Red Raven Games, so solid at my number 4. Top 3 of the year. Here we go. First up, I like Civilization games. Civilization games give me a lot of enjoyment, but they can overstep the mark a bit. I mean, one of my favourite Civilization games has been the Fantasy Flight Civilization game, the original one. And it's quite heavy, it takes a long time to play, but with the expansions, it's solid and it gives a good, rich, immersive experience of a Civilization game. Now, I have played ones that go a bit too far. You know, you have things like, for example, Mega Civilization, which is basically one giant game of Pit that you play for 7 to 8 hours, and occasionally the game will just throw a spanner in your works that completely cripples you and you can't do nothing about it. Yeah, not my favourite of games, that one, but, you know, let's face it, I bought this huge suitcase and thought, yeah, this is great. Played it once, sold it to a friend. Yeah, really did not like it. But so civilization games are a kind of hit and miss affair. You know, I've got Nations behind me, which I enjoy, but that's a card-based civilization game. It's difficult to get one that uses a map along with something that just feels like you're building up a civilization rather than just doing shenanigans with cards. This one, though, has, I think, managed to do it, and that is Civilization: A New Dawn. This one has managed to constrain a civilization game into a short space of time whilst not abstracting it too much. You have to, take some aspects as abstracted because, well, that's how you're going to have to do it. Otherwise, civilization games go on for hours and hours. But this one, you can get a 4-player game done in less than 2 hours. It has been done. Granted, your first game is likely to take longer than 2 hours because you've got to learn the rules and how everything sort of gels together. But once you're done, this can be done in less than 2 hours. 3 players can be done in less than 2 hours if you're quick. 2 players easily done in less than 2 hours. Some 2-player games people have done in an hour. And I don't discredit that. I think I played a 2-player game. It took me about 75 minutes or so, and not including teaching. But of course that player was new to it. I don't deny that you can get this done in a short space of time. But I've really enjoyed this one. Yeah, okay, you don't have miniatures everywhere, boo-hoo. Who cares? You've got your tokens, you can see what you can attack, and, you can mitigate the combat system, a die roll plus modifiers, so it's not like it's pure luck or anything like that. But going across the map and, doing diplomacy with other players and the city-states for extra bonuses, sending caravans off, all that is good fun. But what sells this one to me is that focus row mechanic. That is where I get the prime enjoyment from this game. It's a bar with 5 cards underneath it. You can check out my review for more details. But essentially you have these technology cards where if you use one, you resolve it based on what terrain and what power level it's at. And then it shifts to the back of the row and all the others shift up. So certain actions will get more powerful if you leave them in the row longer. But sometimes you need to do that action more often. So you have to balance out, do I wait for it to get super powerful, or do I just use it now and accept that it's not quite as powerful as it could be, but at least I can use it now. That focus row is such a cool mechanic. I don't know of any other game that uses quite the same system, at least not as well as this. So I would like to see this mechanic used more often. I think it worked brilliantly for this, and it has put this in my collection as one of my favourite Civ games. Now granted, it's more abstracted than a typical Civ game. So this is the one that I want to play where it's like, I want to feel like it's a Civ game, but I need it kind of done in a shorter space of time. Pull this one out. If I want something more meaty and more, more involved, then I'll bring out the other Fantasy Flight Sid Meier's Civ 1 from a few years back. It's more meaty, it's got more in it. But this one, though, looks the business. It's great on the table, colourful, great artwork, great components. You've got some variety in the objectives you go for. It does badly need an expansion because it could use some bolstering to the various card pools, but this is Fantasy Flight. If this takes off, you'll see an expansion. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So even until that point, I still get a kick out of this one and definitely deserves its place at number 3 of 2017. Ooh. Debating between number 2 and 1 was tricky. Ranking this top 10 was tricky in itself. To say one is better than the other was really difficult on this one. But 2 and 1 was especially difficult. I find it really hard to tell which one of these I enjoy more based on how involved it is, what it entails, how much it costs, etc. But eventually I decided. This one, though, is easily my favourite game that Renegade has ever put out. It was a theme that I thought I was going to like when I saw it, building up a library, a fantastical library. But I didn't know it would work so well. The components are stellar, the artwork is amazing, and it's a worker placement game mixed with a spatial organisation aspect of how you organise, your books in your library. And, it just comes together so well in a rich, thematic experience with a good amount of interaction with other players with the worker placement aspect and what all your special meeples do. Because depending which player board you are, you get a special meeple represented by a token, and it does different things, usually messing with other players. All the locations are different every round. How they come out each game will be different. Some become permanent, some go away. and so you constantly have to readjust your tactics based on the locations. It can be a little bit of a mission to learn it in that respect, but solo or multiplayer, Ex Libris is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I've never had so much fun thinking that I could build a library and enjoy it. All the cards with the books on it, they're wonderfully produced artwork-wise, but they've all got these great titles on that are play on words, like equal rights for orcs and stuff like that. So even if you're waiting for your turn, you can just look at your library and laugh at the book titles that they've come up with. And they put some good thought into them. There's some very humorous titles in there. And you've got the combination of the worker placement aspect with organising your library. So it's got to be in alphabetical order, the shelves have got to be stable, you're trying to focus on a particular type. There's a global focus, but then everybody's gunning for that. There's a banned section that you're not allowed to get books for, so they give you negative points. And then once it's all done, you have this really cool flip chart thing at the end. Flip chart, clipboard, dry erase board that you tick off and score everybody on. It's great. Such a great component for the game, even if the dry erase pane did run out after one go. Maybe I didn't seal it enough. But oh well, I bought another one, shoved it in the box, big deal. Even solo, it's great. You have the worker placement boards, but you also have to organise your own library, and you get marked on a similar criteria. I love it solo, I love it 2-player, I love it 3-player. If I can avoid the analysis paralysis people, I like it 4-player as well. But granted, I tend to prefer this with 2, 3 or solo. Tends to happen. 4 players just seems to go past that niche of, how much analysis paralysis are you willing to put up with? Because you've got to adjust to different locations every turn. So it does make teaching it a little bit problematic, which I think was, one of my criticisms I had during the review, that because of all the different locations, you've got to teach them as they come out, and obviously people have got to adjust to that. But other than that, love it. Looks gorgeous, great fun to play. Cannot wait to get this to the table again. Definitely Renegade Game Studios' best works, in my opinion. So, number 2, deserved, Ex Libris. But what's beating it out? My number 1, yes, I'm going to have to go fetch this one because it's a bit of a beast. Yeah, this is quite shocking actually, because most of the time I put a number 1 on a list, it's not usually a grandiose game. I don't believe I've done that in the past with top 10s of 13, 14, 15 and 16. I don't think the top game was ever such a huge mammoth of a game. On this occasion it is. This is a heavy, complex worker placement game that takes a theme that is hard to represent in a board game, but does it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. This is the one game that manages to incorporate time travel in such a way that it just works. Whenever I describe the mechanic of how the time travel aspect works, where you borrow resources from the future but you gotta give them back, my mind explodes. It's so good. There's modules that you can chop and change to make it harder or to make it more, adjustable when the cataclysm's going to happen. But, I'm spoiling it enough. I'm just going to go grab it. It is quite a big game, though, so you're going to have to bear with me. Here we go. Right, get that out of the way. Oh, God, just that. What would he say? Oh, we go. What? Oh, and wablam. Whew. Oh, God. Yeah. Anachrony. If you don't get it from that, then, oh god, then you'll get it from that. This is a huge box, and it is heavy. There's a lot of stuff in here. There is an insert I got from the Netherlands in here. There's miniatures, I've got I bought a Kickstarter copy of, I got this off Paul Harris actually, the guy who runs Hanticon. He sold me his copy because I couldn't get one more than the retail version and I wanted the extra modules with it. But yeah, still love it. This thing is just huge. I mean, God, blimey, look at this box. Huge size. I think this is bigger than Lisboa was. Let's see if I can just put that there for a second. Okay. So, Anachrony, yes. You know that a cataclysm is about to hit the Earth and, decimate it even more. You are each taking control of a corporation to, build yourself up and be the most powerful faction after the cataclysm occurs. You know it's going to happen in the future, so you're biding yourself up for it. When it does happen, the board changes, and so you get bonuses for different actions, and you have an additional action you can perform, which involves like scoring points depending if you've met certain criteria. But during the game, you're hiring workers, you've got to balance when they're awake and asleep in cryostasis, and that affects your morale. You've got to get buildings of different types in order to get the resources you need. You then have, in the Kickstarter version anyway, I know it's not the retail version, but you have, these mechs that you send out. And in the retail version, you get big tokens. So they still look good. It's still a very impressive looking game production-wise. But with this version, you've got the miniatures that you slot the little guy in and you put them out. Completely unnecessary. But my God, do they look good. They're so gorgeous. But you can add the module in there, the Doomsday module that's in this box, that allows you to change when the cataclysm occurs. And oh man, I love the game even with just the basic A sides of the player boards and fixed cataclysm. I like it even more with the B side of the boards where everyone's got an asymmetrical layout. But you throw in that Doomsday module and I just love it so much because factions can influence when the cataclysm occurs. So you might think it's going to happen in 2 rounds time, I'll be ready. But then somebody pushes it one closer. So suddenly the cataclysm has happened and you weren't prepared for it. And that just throws the game for a kilter. Such a great thematic worker placement game. Granted, it's a beast to teach. It's a beast to learn. And your games are going to be long. Whether it's a learning game or a normal game, they're going to be long. An insert is mandatory because you need a quick way to set up this game because you're going to be putting bags everywhere if you're not careful. But yeah, it was hard to choose between this and Ex Libris because Ex Libris is definitely more accessible, it's definitely easier to get to the table, but for the 3+ hours I'm playing this, I'm involved, I am in admiration for the theme, I'm enjoying the mechanics, I'm blowing my mind as to how the time travel aspect works. It's just so good. Such a great game. I wish I could play it more often, only because it's hard to get to the table, but when I do, looks the business. I enjoy playing it. I even enjoy teaching it because I can teach it from a thematic perspective rather than having to focus on mechanics only. And if you're into your heavy Euro games, you'll probably grasp it without too much trouble, but there's a lot to take in, which is why I tend to cap this at 3 players, 2 players. I've even played it solo actually with the Chronobot, and that works pretty well as well because you can sort of plan for its actions. But yeah, 2 or 3 players and this thing just shines. Love it. Anachrony, deserved. So there you have it. My top 10 of 2017. And I said I was going to go through the honourable mentions. So got my little book. I had a short list of about, let's say, 20 odd games I think before I whittled it down. And I know I said that I wasn't a fan of the year in general, but it was quite easy to whittle down most of this hot list because there was a lot of games where I was just playing it and going, yeah, meh, not fussed. But, oh well, what games have come out this year that were, everyone was banging on about? Oh yeah, Gloomhaven. Well, yeah. I put it on my overrated games for a reason. It's number 1 at the moment. Fair play to it, congrats, but never respected the BGG rating system anyway. So yeah, granted, that was never going to make my list. But what were the other honourable mentions? Let's see. Azul. Yes, Azul, the abstract game. Decent game. Just kind of missed the mark. It would probably be a top 15. It just didn't quite make the top 10 cut. I find that some of the best ways to play it get a little bit repetitive. Like it's better to aim for this kind of strategy than another. But it's a good, simple abstract. Works well with even 4 players and certainly was a top 15 for me. Downforce. Yeah, Downforce felt more just like a reprint than anything else, so I was a bit, can I put it on the list? And I do really enjoy this game. I mean, I gave it a 10. It's certainly a really streamlined racing experience. It just simple rules, go out and get it. But in terms of, oh my god, my amazing enjoyment versus those other games, it didn't quite make that cut. Still a great racing game though, and certainly worth, I think it's downstairs at the moment, but definitely worth checking out if you like racing games. First Martians. Yeah, I've been really enjoying this one. A review will come out soon. I need to play test it a little bit more with like the legacy aspects, but it's not as good so far as my Robinson Crusoe. And there are some criticisms I do have of the game, but I am really enjoying it. primarily from a solo perspective. So it probably would have been a top 15 for me as well, but the criticisms that I have of it would stop it being a top 10 contender for me. Going down the list, more, let's say Otis. Otis, pretty decent, simple Euro game with the divers and, using the different divers to collect cubes and trade them in for points. Straight up abstracted game. I mean, the theme is just totally wasted there. And it can go a bit long, I think, with 4 players. Works great with 2 or 3, and I've seen evidence of a solo variant. I've actually got the rules to it, and I need to playtest it. I know I've been saying all year that I wanted to do some playtests of games like Rado style. I'm still trying to get used to the tech, and obviously I need time to experiment with it, and that's just something I'm finding in short supply lately. But if I can get it off the ground in 2018, I'll try and get it off the ground, where I'll do a walkthrough with a gimbal stabilizer with my mobile phone, use that as the camera, use this as the audio, and we'll go with that. But what I might do is focus it on solo variants of games, because a lot of people do playthroughs of actual games. They tend to gloss over the solo aspect. So maybe if I can get that off the ground, I'll pick up Otis off my shelf, use that solo variant, and maybe make that my first one. We'll see. Plans for 2018. But Otis is still a solid game. I just wish it had more interaction. But yeah, overall, still solid. Top 15, top 20 maybe, but certainly a solid one for the year. I mentioned Gaia Project already. I give it an honourable mention. It's a good game. I just think it's far too similar to Terra Mystica to justify its inclusion on the list. Probably a top 15, but like I say, it's just so similar to Terra Mystica, it's hard to call it a new game. And then finally there was Keeper. Keeper, yes. A review will be coming out for this soon, but I need more plays of it, so I couldn't really justify its inclusion on the list. But even then, as much as I'm enjoying the game, the fact that it is such a pain to learn and teach this game because of its horrendous rulebook, could not make a top 10 with a rulebook like that. I mean, First Martians already had a bad enough rulebook. This one is horrible. Such a bad rulebook. But if you can conquer that hurdle, Keeper is still an entertaining game. Probably a top 20 for me on that basis, but still deserves an honourable mention. And then there were other games on this list that I can't really give an honourable mention, but I did considered Pandemic Legacy Season 2. It's different, but it just feels basically it's like Season 1 with a few changed mechanics, and it's Pandemic. I don't go mad for Pandemics, but I'm enjoying it. And there will be a review coming out very soon, actually, for it. But, yeah, wasn't going to make a top 10. Charterstone, I'm playing through it, but I'm not getting overwhelmed by it, so it didn't really make an honourable mention. Alien Artifacts, 6 out of 10 I gave it. Yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. Legend of the Five Rings, the core set. Decent game, but so little variety in that core box. Requires a ton of investment, and bit long, I think, for an LCG. Hot Shots, decent game. Simple firefighting experience, just was kind of, yeah, it's okay. I enjoy it, but I gave it to a charity raffle, I believe, for Uncon. And, I bet they'll be enjoying that game, because it was genuinely a good game, but wasn't really going to make a top 20 for me. Indulgence, kind of a reprint, and I'm kind of justifying how much longer I'm going to hang on to it, because trick-taking games are not really my thing, so wasn't really going to include it. And then I'm in an ahhing about Ticket to Ride Germany. Is it an expansion? Is it a base set? It's not technically a new game. I didn't know if I wanted to really put it on this list, but even then, it would probably be a top 20 anyway. It wouldn't make a top 15. I really enjoyed the Germany map, but yeah, it wasn't, something to blow my mind. And that's about it. Yeah, that was it on my little book. So if there were some other 2017 games that you think I should have considered, then chances are I just didn't like them as much. That's pretty much the deal. Or I may not have even played them. Some of the ones that were Kickstarter only, for example, I just never even bothered with, because I don't do tons on Kickstarter unless it's a publisher I know is good and it's a game I know is going to be good, or it's an expansion. But things like Seventh Continent, people are saying it's a great game, but it's Kickstarter only. I'm not going to go out of my way to pay all that money for a Kickstarter game hoping it'll be good just to get a review out. It's not happening. And, Gloomhaven was a similar deal. You could only really get that by Kickstarter. I'm not interested in games being like, the best thing of the year, if the only way to get them is to go across the world to find it, or to get it on Kickstarter. that's just not the way. I want to review games that have retail releases so that they're easier to get hold of. And Essen, Essen had some great games that I would like to play. Sadly, I couldn't make it to Essen this year, but I will be going there for 2018. And so there are some games that I've not played from Essen that didn't retail release quick enough. Like, what's one for example? Dinosaur Islands, is it called? Or something like that. I really want to play that. That looks like something I will love. Where's the retail release of it? You had to go to Essen or get it on Kickstarter in order to get a copy. Not good enough. I need retail release in the UK. I want to be able to say to people, here's a game, it's great, you should get it, and you can get it. I don't like to review a game where it's like, here's a game, you will never be able to get this. Ha ha! That's just not the way I want to do it. So those sort of games kind of missed the mark as well. But 2017, like I say, may not have been my favourite year for games. But a lot's happened in that year, some belters of games have come out, some major milestones in games have been reached, conventions are growing, board game cafes are sprouting up all over the place, the Broken Meeple as a whole has grown with the whole YouTube channel now kicking off, subscribers are coming in, I'm grateful to you all, and yeah, it's been a very involved year. So I'm hoping that 2018 is going to be an even better one. I've got a lot of conventions lined up that I want to go to, including Essen, and of course the UK Games Expo. But first we've got things like HandyCon, AirCon, maybe SawCon. I would like to go to that, just depends. It's a very busy month work-wise for me, so I've got to be careful. But yeah, I'm hoping that there's going to be some great games in 2018, and this won't be the last list I do for this year, or in reference to 2017. I've still got the top 10 expansions list to do, which I guess I'll just get on and record that in a second. So, going to be sore throat by the end of this. But what I might also do later on, depending on your feedback, guys, is I might do, as a future top 10 list, a retrospective top 10 of 2016. Because I've played some games for 2016 that I didn't play when I did the original list, and now my top 10 of 2016 may have chopped and changed. So I might decide to go back and do another 2016 top 10 with a retrospective look. But if that's something you'd like to see, then leave it in the comments and let me know. I will certainly get round to doing it, because I can think of a few games that might have come on and off that list after playing it since then. But that's for now. So I will leave you guys to enjoy the new year. Hopefully I'll get the top 10 expansions of 2017 out before the end of the year, but I'm certainly going to strive to get this one edited and uploaded before New Year's Eve, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it, whether or not you agree with the top 10 list or not. But as some people are saying, it was such a great year, so there should be a wide variety of games, and hopefully this has given you a bit of insight into the sort of games that I enjoy from this year, rather than just going with the flow. So that's it. Take care, guys. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2018.